Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name's Mohammed Francis, and in today's video we will look at how to analyze and describe charts. And the students often say, teacher, what is a chart? Why do we have charts? What do we use them for? And very simply, charts are pictures or lines that help us to read numbers or information very quickly and very easily. And the most common types of charts that are used are bar charts, line charts, and pie charts. And in today's video, we will look at examples of those types of charts, also how we read the charts, and more importantly, how we write effectively about the information contained therein. So let's go ahead, shall we? As we read charts, we're looking for three things: how numbers increase, how numbers decrease, or how they stay the same over a period of time. No more than this. We're normally looking for what we call trends or movements of numbers. For example, a shop may want to see how sales were over a period of years. They want to see if sales have improved, or whether they've fallen, or whether they've stayed the same. It may be also the same for college. Want to see how many students have come into the college, how many have passed exams, how many have failed exams, and what types of improvements there are. So charts effectively do this. So let's have a look at some of the typical charts we use and what kind of information is in those charts and how we read them. The first most common type of chart is called the bar chart. Why do you think it's called a bar chart? It's true. These colored lines look like bars of chocolate, bars of galaxy, bars of gold even, and of course they are vertical bars. And here on the left we see numbers, and here along the bottom we see dates. And these two colors represent two countries. They represent the people from Asia in blue and people from Africa in orange, people who come for Hajj to Saudi Arabia during the years 2020, 21, 22 and 23. And the bar chart easily helps us to see that in the first year there were more African pilgrims, in the second year more Asian pilgrims, in the third year more African pilgrims, and in the fourth year more Asian pilgrims. So the situation changes from year to year, and in picture form these bars show us the numbers who arrived in Saudi Arabia during those 4 years. So bar charts is very useful for us to compare information, to compare numbers between two different entities. The second most common type of chart is the line chart. Let's look at an example of a line chart. And the second most common type of chart is a line chart, and it's clear why it's called a line chart, because of course we read the information in lines, and the title of this chart is the number of electric cars manufactured in the years 2020 to 2024 in millions. Each line is a country. Yellow line is Japan, blue is China, grey Saudi Arabia, and orange, grey is USA, and orange Saudi Arabia. And here we can see, for example, in China, in 2020, they made 1 million vehicles. It rose to 2 million in 2021, 4 million in 22, 5 million, 6 million in 2023, and 7 million in the year 2024. So we can see the increases for China, the decreases for Japan, and how in Saudi Arabia manufacturing has remained the same and increased only slightly. So this is a line chart. The next type of chart is a pie chart. Another popular chart is the pie chart, and we can see why it's called a pie chart. It looks like a giant pie or a giant pizza. And each of the years, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24, is represented on the chart in colors. The largest piece of the pie is the year, as you can see, the year 2022 here. The next two largest are the years 24 and 2020, and the smallest being 2021 and 2023. So this is the pie chart, a typical pie chart, and it's another way of looking at the same information to compare the numbers of drink items sold at the JAC cafeteria in each of these years. So here we're comparing the years, not the items. In example 1, this is a line chart. We have two trends. The first is increase and the second a decrease. It's the same item, numbers of water sales in JAC cafeteria in 2023 across the period of 3 seasons, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 items. And this is how we talk about this rise, this increase. You should use the simple past tense. The number of water bottle sales rose sharply from 5,000 bottles in spring to around 14,000 in summer. This is the subject. Verb in the past simple past tense. Use an adverb to show how it rises. Give some statistical information, time, statistical information, and time. You can also write about the same information, the same increase here in the chart, using what we call the noun adjective form. It reads, there was a sharp rise in water sales from 5,000 bottles in spring to 14,000 bottles in summer. And here we give a reason why we think it's the case. The weather is hot in summer. So in talking about that one increase, there are two ways to write it. It's the verb, adverb, or noun, adjective. Let's read that again. The number of water bottle sales rose sharply from 5,000 bottles in spring to around 14,000 in summer. You can also say there was a sharp rise in water sales from 5,000 bottles in the spring to 14,000 in the summer. The weather is hot in summer. You should use both of these sentence forms in your writing. Let's look at another example for the second part, which is the decline in sales of water sales. Let's look at the sentences for those. And the sentence reads, then between summer and winter, we put time first, water sales fell steeply to about 3,000 bottles. And we can see here in the chart, from 1,400 bottles, it fell down steeply until around, we don't know exactly, it's about 3,000 bottles water sold in 2023 in the winter time. And of course, we can say now the weather is too cold in winter for people to drink water. Another way to say that is to use the noun adjective form. Let's look at that. Later, there was a steep fall in water sales to around 3,000 bottles between summer and winter. So that's another way to talk about the same trend. Looking at the two sentences one more time. Then, between summer and winter, water sales fell steeply to about 3,000 bottles. And here you can see from there to there. The weather was too cold in winter for water. Or we can say, this is the same information. Later, there was a steep fall in winter sales to around 3,000 bottles between summer and winter. The information is the same. It's just the way of expressing it is different, using two different forms, two different expressions there for the same information from the chart. Now try the exercise, write with me, and let's see if we agree. We'd like to talk about the monthly electricity and water prices in Saudi Arabia in between the years 2020 and 2024. I'd like you to focus on this trend here, with the trend which declined, decreased, and the trend which rose up. We begin with the subject. I forgot to mention the blue line is electricity prices, and the orange line are the water prices. So we begin our sentences. The monthly electricity prices dropped sharply And please remember you need the subject here and the verb in the simple past, not the past continuous, and a adverb, the correct adverb to show the type of fall, the type of drop. Now give some figures, please. So the figures are from, we can see here from 600 riyals, Saudi riyals, down to about 300 riyals. From 600 riyals in 2022, we can see the date there, 600, 2022. Then we add the price it fell to roughly 350 Saudi riyals in 2023. And we can see here, 2023, and the price is around, no, it's not, it's 250, excuse me. And it doesn't matter if you get the factual information wrong. We are looking here for correct use of language and to see that you understand the graph and the information that's in the graph. If you make one or two factual mistakes, you do not lose marks. Now let's take the second trend, which is from 2023 upwards. And here we call this a dramatic increase, a dramatic rise. Now what we previously used the verb and the adverb form. Now will we use the noun adjective form. Let's go ahead and write that. And so we add later. There was a dramatic rise in electricity prices to 800 Saudi riyals in 2024. Now we do not need to mention the price in 2023 because already it's given here. We just talk about the change that has occurred, the trend. And remember, please, this is a noun adjective form. It's a little bit different. Dramatic, you could say sharp increase, dramatic rise, a steep increase, whatever the language. You can learn from your teacher the language for graphs, but this is the way we write about those two changes. Let's write about only this change. These are the water prices from 2022 until 2024. Do you remember the verb we used for this, which is remained the same, stayed the same, didn't change? So let's what's the subject for this is water prices. Let's write this sentence now. And for this we say, finally, water prices remained the same at 200 Saudi riyals per month in the years 2022 to 2024. You might want to add a sentence, your opinion, your observation, a comment perhaps. And here's mine. And I add my opinion, oil prices were high in this period, so utility bills stayed low. I have no idea whether this is true, but certainly, and in my interpretation of why the prices stayed, water prices stayed low and stayed the same for those 2 years. Now on to the introduction. How do we write the introduction? The first line of the introduction is to answer the question, what is this chart about? What is this chart about? What is this chart telling us? So the first line of the introduction is a statement or a sentence answering this question. We can see in this particular chart the numbers of Hajj pilgrims to Mecca, Medina from Asia and Africa 2020 to 2023. Here are the numbers in the thousands, and here are the years 20, 21, 22, 23. And we can see this chart compares or shows the numbers of pilgrims from these two countries. So let's say that in the first line of the sentence, and it looks like this. The line graph shows the number of Hajj pilgrims from Asia and Africa between 2020 and 2023. And of course, the information in the introduction is general. In general, more pilgrims came from Asia than Africa. Now speak in general terms about these trends here. This is the trend for Asian pilgrims, and this is the trend for the African pilgrims. So we're speaking now in general terms about these. Don't give statistical details in the introduction. We continue. The number of Asian pilgrims rose and fell throughout the periods 2020 and 23. However, The number of African pilgrims stayed the same, about the same during this time. So this really is just an overall picture, a general picture of what is represented here in the graph in the introduction. There's no thesis statement. We know that you're going to talk about the pertinent details in the body. So we've already shown you how to do that in the previous recording. Let's read this one more time. The line graph shows the number of Hajj pilgrims from Asia and Africa between the years 2020 and 2023. Overall, in general, more pilgrims came from Asia than Africa. The number of Asian pilgrims rose and fell throughout the period of 2020-23. However, the number of African pilgrims stayed the same, about the same during this time. Do not write your essay without a plan. This is the plan for the introduction. You should answer the question, what is this chart about? You should read the chart, analyze it, understand it, find the main movements, the main trends in the chart. Are there increases, the decreases, where they remain the same? And then answer the question with a general definition, a sentence. Later, describe the trends generally in 1 or 2 sentences. To successfully write this, you should understand what is happening in the chart. For the body paragraphs, you need to describe those trends in more details with numbers and statistical information. The first body paragraph is sentence describing the main trends using verb or adverb or noun and adjective. In the sentence, you should include the subject, the verb, chart information, so statistics, and the time period. After you write this, you can add your observations or comments or opinions. Then it's the same again for the second item in the chart. Describe the main trends that are happening there. Use verb, adverb, or noun and adjective type sentences. And again, the types of writing should be the same, and you can add an observation or a comment. And your overall goal is to generally compare those 2 items. The same will be true for the second body paragraph. Second body paragraph takes another item, a different item. There's the trends within that item. Use verb, adverb, or noun, adjective sentences. And again, the fourth item and the main trends that are happening there using the same kind of language and generally comparing it. The conclusion should be a summary, if you like, a repeat of the information in the introduction, and perhaps highlight 1 or 2 important or interesting features, and finally add your opinion. So this is our plan. Introduction, what is the chart about? Speak about it generally. Speak about, in the first body paragraph, 2 items, and in the second body paragraph, 2 items from the chart. Summarize the main trends, and finally add your opinion in the conclusion. In the exam, a typical question may look like this. Analyze and explain the graph below. It says describe the multi-line graph below comparing the sales of food items and explain the data. Immediately you should go to the graph and start looking out for at least 3, 4, or 5 main trends that you can speak about in the body. First, go to the title. Describe the number of sandwiches sold in JSA cafeteria in the years 2020, 21, 22, 23, and 24. 1, 2, 3, 4 years. Here we can see 4 colored lines. The first line is burger. Second line, shakshuka. Third line, tuna. And fourth line, sandwiches. These are 4 sandwiches sold at the JSE cafeteria in those 4 years. And the numbers sold, 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000. Now, very quickly, we can see we look at the main ups and the main downs and whether they remain the same. Here we can see burger sales fall, they rise, they fall, they rise. There's up and there's down. The same can be said for shakshuka. Shakshuka is up and down. but here it stays the same. For falafel sales stay the same for 3 years, then rise only slightly in the year 2024. Tuna sales are always low from 2020, but they rise slowly and consistently until 2023, when there is a sharp rise until 2024. Now you can see these are the highest sold items. The highest sold here is burger, shakshuka, and finally tuna matches the burger sales in 2024. So in the introduction, we speak generally about what we see here. And in the first line, we answer the question, what is this graph about? Immediately go directly to the answer. This line graph shows the sales of 4 sandwiches in JSE cafeteria: burger, shakshuka, tuna, and falafel between the years 2020 and 2024. In general, burger and shakshuka sold the best. It's true, we can see they are the best sellers. However, tuna was a poor seller until 2023, and if we see this, it's not a good seller, and suddenly it shoots up. Sales of falafel sandwiches stayed the same for all 4 years, and here's a falafel, and it's about the same. I mean, it doesn't change that much there. So generally, we give a general picture of what is happening in the graph. In the first body paragraph, this is where we take 2 or 3 of the trends, and for the first body paragraph, I talk about burger sales and shakshuka sales. So burger and shakshuka sales, and then in the second body paragraph, I will speak about tuna and falafel sales. Let's see how we write those. And you can see here I've made the graph a little bit smaller for you to read the first body paragraph. And in it you can see we speak about shakshuka and we later speak about burgers. But let's, in the first sentence, describe this increase from 2020 to 2021. First, shakshuka sales increased dramatically from 600 sandwiches in 2020 to 1,500 in 2021, and here you can see 1,500 in 2021. Now let's speak about this fall here. Then there was a steep fall back to only 600 units in 2022. And we come to this date here. Perhaps the eggs tasted better. I added my opinion, my comment here. Speaking about this trend here, later, shakshuka sales remain the same until 2024. I'm not going to mention the number because I mentioned already before it's 600 units. Now to burgers. Here are the burger sales. Here are the burger sales. It's the opposite. However, the sale of burgers fluctuated massively between 2020 and 2024. Here are the burger sales. Down, up, down, up. We call this a fluctuation. Notably, they dropped as low as 400 items in 2021. If we go to 2021, it's low there. And peaked means the highest to 1,800 in 2022. So I'm only drawing attention to those two, that decrease and that increase. The reason, maybe at first, JSE burgers were a bit overpriced, and there's my opinion, my comment related to that. Please remember I've used a mix here of verb, adverb, noun, adjective, verb, adverb, and also remained the same. Verb, dropped, peaked, were. So all the language is simple past. It's never past continuous. Do not use the present perfect or the past continuous, just the simple past. And I focused only on 2 of the items in the chart, speaking about the ups, the increases, and the decreases. Now let's talk about falafel sales and tuna sales in the second body paragraph. So I begin with falafel sales here. and it looks the same for 3 years and goes up a little bit between 2023 and 24. So I begin the paragraph saying, on the other hand, cafeteria sales of falafel sandwiches were low, around 500 items a year, and they remained constant until 2024. Then I comment, in that year, 2024, they rose slightly to about 800 pieces. Maybe the cooking oil was old, my comment. Now to tuna, sales here almost from zero, and they shoot up here in 2024. So there is a gradual rise to very high sales. Tuna sales went up consistently from 2 to 400 sandwiches between 2020 and 2022. Then in 2022, they increased abruptly, sharply, rapidly to reach a peak of 1,700 items sold in 2024. So for the second body paragraph, I talk about 2 items there. The first one is falafel sales, and the second being tuna sales. Talk about them remaining the same, going up slightly, and the consistent increase and the dramatic rise here in the final year 2023 and 2024. Now to the conclusion. In the conclusion, we simply repeat the kind of information that we wrote in the introduction, speaking about all 4 items in general terms. And it reads as follows. In conclusion, burger and shakshuka sandwich sales at JC cafeterias fluctuated, but also performed the highest in those 4 years. So we're saying here they went up and down, but they sold the highest overall. Notably, sales of falafel fell sharply in 2021, and tuna sales were low, but did not change much until 2024. In my opinion, I think students will buy more tuna sandwiches in the future because it is a healthier option. That's me wishful thinking, hoping that they will. So the conclusion again wraps up, talks about the text in general terms in the same way that the introduction does. And in the end, I add my opinion, what I think may happen in the future. And I've shown here that I've written 244 words for the whole thing. Well, this is the end of the video, telling you how to analyze, to read and write about charts. I hope that was useful for you. My name is Mohammed Francis. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.